Ladies and gentlemen, come gather around, come gather around, come gather around. Today, we are actually taking apart and putting together a 6-liter Chevy LS LQ4. Picked it up a little bit end of the last summer, I think, and for a sweet deal, $1,000 for motor, wiring harness, ECU, and a 4L80 transmission. So, yay. This is going in the 61 Apache. Talked about it in a previous video, and then this is the course of a bunch of months, I guess, of us taking the motor apart. So this is getting my son, who is here 13, and we're taking the engine completely apart. So there's a whole sloppy mechanics philosophy of just take it apart. No, don't take it apart. Just run it. Put a turbo on it, run it. When you blow it up, get another one. And I'm not quite there yet. I don't always trust a motor. So we took it all apart just to have a looky-loo inside. And the thing is cherry. It is in really good shape. The bearings are nice. The cylinders are nice. The pistons are nice. Everything's really good. You could theoretically just run it. A smart cookie, though, would open up the ring gaps and so that you don't break any piston ring lands under boost, but this thing would have been just sweet. Anyways, good thorough clean. Interestingly, it's out of an 07 a van, express van, 317 heads. And while it's a Gen 3 engine block, it actually ended up having Gen 4 rods and pistons in it. So that was a little exciting to discover that the rings that I bought were not the right ones. Sorry for the shakiness. I sped this up because I was actually talking about how to clean an engine for this video and then decided not to bother. I'm using just a gunk heavy-duty degreaser to degrease the heavy-duty grease. And then I hose it down with oven cleaner, which is also one of my favorites. And that was wonderful. Oven cleaner is great. It dissolves carbon. Engines are full of carbon. You are carbon, and it will dissolve you. So, yeah, empty a couple cans on it, pressure wash the snot out of it. This is at work because I'm afraid of freezing my pressure washer at home. So this is work. I was so cold. And this would have been, I'm not sure exactly when I did this, probably fairly early January. So not a ton of snow out there, but definitely it was cold. So yeah, blow out every passage that you can. Make sure there's no crud or anything tucked inside there. And then I spray the mother-loving snot out of it with WD-40 because the WD stands for water displacement. It's wonderful. Just spray it all over the place. Keeps it from flash rusting. So this is actually surprisingly loud. I am wearing earmuffs because, oh my gosh. There we are. Close it, warm, WD-40 the snot out of it. And it was a little while later until we started putting it together. Just looking at the dates of the calendar of when I was probably doing this. But, oh well. This was an experiment that failed. I soaked the cylinder heads in a 20-liter pail of diesel because, diesel cleans awesome. Diesel does not clean awesome. Diesel was a waste of time. So now I have 20 liters of diesel. I think this head was soaked in there for a week. I had one soaking in for close to a month. It was an absolute waste of time. I was nervous about using oven cleaner because I find oven cleaner tends to also dissolve or at least etch the aluminum, and I didn't want that to happen. But these soaked. Eventually I gave up. I took it to a machine shop, said, here, you know what, just clean them, do the guides, do the seats, not deck them, mill them, and call me when they're done. Pistons look pretty good. I had them soaking in diesel as well. No improvement there at all. This one's been sitting for a while, and it loosened the carbon, but not a lot. I did end up going oven cleaner on these. You just got to be quick. So I made a cam bearing installation tool. I should put a link in here somewhere that talks about using a cam bearing installation tool. It'll be largely this video. So I made a tool so I can pull the cam bearings out and put the cam bearings in, and ta-da, there we are. Often if you're taking an engine to a shop, you can say, I want you to deburr the, I guess you could get them, I'm deburring the block right here. What I meant to say is you can get them to put the cam bearings in, but for the cost of machining, the time to machine it, I made my own tool. I like to deburr the blocks just because it's a little less catch my knuckle skin and rip it off. So making it nice, plopping her up, stick her on the ground, and then just deburring other areas with it. Doesn't make any difference for power. I also took the oil pump, the new oil pump from Melling, and disassembled it and ported it. So I spent a fair bit of time smoothing all of the oil passages inside it. It's just time, right? And if it helps the oil get to places a little bit easier, why would you not? So, yeah, porting. Wahoo. And then nice and surgically clean, and then I put it back in the box because I wasn't quite ready for this thing to be putting on the motor yet. So, there we are, a bunch of oil. Torquey, torque, torque, click, click. Never found a 3/8 torque wrench that impresses me. They seem to not always shoot. This was teaching my kid how to hone cylinders. And I don't know if it's my eyesight is going or I'm not used to using a cordless drill or whatever, but it took me a while to really get the swing of this. Usually I find one of these dingle ball hones will do a sweet job of cylinders. But in this case, I was second guessing myself a lot and just checking and rechecking and trying. And I think it's okay. I might just be overthinking it. I tend to fuss over things a lot. But looking at it, talking with the kid, explaining how things... I should put a link in here to a good cylinder honing video that I put together a while back. Doesn't use the dingle ball, but I do use a flex hone. So I'm using a light so I can try and see the crosshatch pattern. You kind of want to shoot for somewhere between 30 degrees off a horizontal, upwards of no more than 45 degrees off a horizontal. But got a video for that. This is just putting the engine together. Sometime around here, I ended up ordering a turbocharger kit from VS Racing, a 78-75 millimeter turbo, Chinese, but VS Racing is pretty reputable. Came with a intercooler, all the tubing, blow-off valve, wastegate, oil feed and drain, all the stuff that we need. I spent a fair bit of time, which I didn't show videos of polishing the combustion chambers and a very slight smoothing of the ports in these heads. I'm there and it made me feel good. The casting of these LS heads is so much better than the old school Gen 1 heads. It's amazing. I sprayed the head with just a light coat of aluminum colored engine paint just to clean up the crusty. They were relatively clean from the machine shop. They did tank them with whatever kind of tank they use for aluminum, but they still were kind of icky. So just a light little dust of aluminum color, and they just look nice. These are Pack 1218 valve springs going on. The guides were in pretty good shape. I did lap the valves. I think I'll have to put a link in on lapping the valves so that you can see how you do that. Some people say don't do it. That's another video. You'll notice I'm doing the exhausts again. I found out after putting this head together that there's actually different seals for exhaust and intake, which meant taking the one head apart. But whatever, this is my first LS. This one went together fairly good. I'm using a Molly Slip grease to lubricate the valve stem so that they've got good lubey lube for when the engine is initially started up. Apparently I'm not wearing eye protection. Kind of dumb. For the 61, apparently engines were painted gray. Especially I think the 283. The 327 might have been like a Detroit diesel sort of green, kind of a seafoamy green. But I haven't found a definitive answer, and gray is easy to get. So for the purists out there, you're going to hate me because it's Ford gray that I painted the block, but you'll get over it, and it's going to be fine. So putting cam bearings in, checking to make sure the oil passes are all lined up, and camshaft. Oh man, I debated for a long time about what camshaft to put in here. Should I get a performance one? How rowdy do I want to get? What about for boost? And a ton of research. And in the end, I decided it's probably smarter to just run the stock cam, and then decide what I want once it's running. And I've driven it and I go, yeah, you know what? I need more cam, or I don't need cam, or whatever. Oven cleaner on the crankshaft. Just, oh man, that stuff works great. It just cleans it up so well. So that's all nice and cleaned. The crank was really good. You'll see shortly, I plastic gauged everything and all the clearances are bang on. I put all new bearings in, Clevite 77 bearings. The originals were really good, but they had a little bit of shmoo embedded in them, which is what they're supposed to do. But I debated, I'm here, I might as well just put them in. So new bearings. This is setting up for plastic gauge, which is a pain in the butt because each main cap has 6 bolts. Thank you for making it difficult. Makes for a stronger block, probably why these things handle 1,000 horsepower stock. With boost, of course. And new to me, you torque it down a little bit, and then you need a degree wheel thing to torque them a specified amount. I've never used one before, so it took a little bit of figuring how to make this thing work. And it's like you torque them to 24 foot-pounds, and then you turn them 62.5 degrees. And that's apparently tight enough. So that's what I did. Anyways, torque, and then take it all apart again, and then take a look at the plastic gauge. And these are all bang on, like just right on spec. So cool. Some of the pictures here, you can see the V8 Firefly in the background. That actually got sold in April. I think it was the end of April of the year that I built this motor. That was a fun project to build, challenging, but I just wasn't in love with it, so sold it. And that's helping to fund this one. Hey, it's the oven cleaner. And the pail to your left there is 50-50 Pine Sol and water. And it's a really good cleaner. That stuff cleans super well. I did find that the Pine Sol was starting to etch the aluminum where the valve covers were poking through. So you kind of want to have it completely submerged. But I painted these, so it really doesn't matter. These clean up really nice. Oven cleaner, a bunch of scraping, and then I took them all to work and made them cleaner. But yeah, they're a nice casting. They look almost like a forged casting. They're a really nice casting, and the rods are pretty heavy and robust too. So you just sit, play some music, clean pistons. Then I rinsed them all in solvent, then water, then blew them all in compressed air, and I don't know where I'm putting them. Looks like I'm cleaning up. Oh, and then I sit down with, so you take a piston ring, break it in half, and use the cut, not broken end of the ring to scrape all the junk out of there. And because the ring fits the groove just perfectly. I have used piston ring groove cleaners, scrapers, whatever they're called, and I find they just get a little aggressive. So I just use a chunk of broken ring. Takes some time, but I'm not being paid for this. Here I'm at work, polishing the top of the pistons with Noir, I think. Good buffing compound for aluminum. Yeah, the wheel looks a little wiggly. I did get it kind of straightened a little bit later on, making some adjustments to it because it was a little weird, but it doesn't really matter. I got all the tops of the pistons to a mirror finish, kind of to match the mirror finish of the inside of the combustion chambers. I should put a link up on how I CC'd the combustion chambers. That was kind of a fun experience too. So here I'm gapping the rings. I did gap one piston with the original set of rings that I bought and discovered that they didn't actually fit the pistons because I bought Gen 3 rings because it's a Gen 3 block, but it has Gen 4 guts. So whoop-de-doo. I did break down and buy one of these piston ring compressors. That was really nice. I quite enjoyed that. So I don't like the clamp them around kind of ones. They seem to sometimes move the rings. So these just stay exactly where I want them to be, and bang-a-boom, there we go. You can see how shiny those pistons are. They look absolutely brand new. They're polished. They're used. They're used pistons. I just cleaned them. I want no sharp sources of potential heat or detonation in the engine, so I polished them as well as I possibly could. Anyways, I really like putting together motors. It's fun. It's meticulous. It's cool. Anyways, by the end of this, I was getting pretty good at gapping rings. I think I went 26 on the top and 28 on the second. I can't remember. It might have been 24 and 26. I was going to do 28 and 30 because then you could run upwards of 30 pounds of boost, but I don't think the pistons and rods will take it. So I'm pretty sure these are 26 and 28. I'll have to look it up. Doesn't matter. And then the last piston. Yay. And I also don't spiral the rings on. I use a piston ring compressor. Piston ring pliers. Because I found in the past when I twist the rings on, spiral the rings on, they put a little bit of a twist in the ring and then the rings move while the engine's running, and I don't like that. So, hooray. Sun's coming out to help. Yay. And then, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm running around all over. Oh, yeah, torquing. Torque at the right amount. And a certain amount of degrees. And then we did a couple things here. I was getting ready to put the timing chain on. So I pulled off the old sprocket, put on a new sprocket, and discovered that the new timing chain, which is a Cloy's chain, was no tighter than the one I took off. And then I was confused, and I tried a couple different things and went, you know what? The chain on here is tighter than the chain I bought. So I put the used chain back on. There's no point taking off a perfectly good piece to put on a new one that's not as visually good. So we're running it. Got the oil pump on there, line her up, torque her down. I'm pretty fussy about the cylinder head areas. I think we're getting ready to put the heads on. Apparently I'm cleaning something. Oh, the front cover. Pounded out the seal, pop in a new seal, and then paint it. Now, the yellow paint is a zinc chromate, which helps etch into the aluminum. And then once that's set up, I hose it down with some Ford Motor Gray. Easy to see the oil leaks. I'm impressed with the design of the LS. I've done lots of old school engines. This is definitely a good motor. I would say I'm done with the old school Chevy V8s. I would do LS. If you're going to do anything, put an LS in it, even if it's not a Chevy. Anyways, roller lifters. Torquing in the cross bolts with a little smear of Permatex Ultra Black. And I guess that was the end of the day. Coat of gray, which you missed. Making sure it's lined up at the bottom. Torque. Cleaning the gasket surface. Checking out the head gasket. It works. Spray it with a copper Permatex head gasket spray just for that extra little bit of I don't want this to leak. Had enough head gasket leaks with the 015 steel shim on my 350. And then in this case, I coughed up the money and I put ARP studs because I don't want to, I just want to hedge my bets that it's not going to blow up. So, studs. Man, they're not cheap. And some would say they're totally not needed. But you know what? I feel better. Kind of like having mag wheels. They don't make you go faster, but you sure feel better when you got them. Anyways, checked and inspected every single lifter, put them in, torqued in the holder downernators, spray the head gasket. Well, clean the surface so it's clean. Spraying it, letting it dry for a bit. Spray it again. And it looks like we're getting the studs ready, cleaning the surface of the head. You can see the shininess on the combustion chambers there. And then my son put the push rods in. And no, we didn't. We did the washers and the nuts. And then set them all in place. Torque. Hopefully nothing blows. Your engine totally blows, Mr. Whalewood. Thanks. More etch, zinc chromate, coat of gray. Rear seal is a funky seal. You gotta, once you get it in, it's like it kind of needs this little plastic thing to help it fit over the back of the crank. Or apparently it'll leak or something. So anyways, lining that up with the bottom where the pan needs to be and torque. There is, I did buy a new barbell. You can see it on the shelf by the Milwaukee cordless drill. I just bought the barbell to steal the O-ring off of it because I machined an O-ring out of aluminum with a tighter fit than the plastic was, and I'm just not confident that the plastic isn't going to break. But I stole the O-ring because I didn't have a Viton O-ring the right size. So $15 O-ring. Knock sensors go in. Probably handy, running boost, oil pressure sender, cam sender. Here's the push rods, a little smear of molybdenum moly slip grease, I think. Black grease, anyways. And then putting in the rocker arms. And you got to torque them to 24 foot-pounds, I think. But you got to make sure the cam is not on the lobe. So it just takes a bit of moving around and wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. Torquey, torquey, torque. There we are. Easy. Then, valve covers. Reminds me I gotta get spark plugs. Anyways, cleaning up the bolts for that. Got the valve covers on. You can get some pretty neat aftermarket valve covers to make your engine look really dressy. It's nice. Doesn't make you go fast, though. These will probably stay like this forever. This is the windage tray, which I don't have any oven cleaner, so I didn't scrub this as clean as it could be. I just used a green scrubby and hosed the snot out of it. The oil pan is going to get shortened. For now, I just wanted to seal up the motor, so I cleaned all the scum off of it. And when it's on the motor, I'm going to take it off the stand, bolt it to the transmission, and then mark how much I need to shorten the pan. I want the truck to ride fairly low, and the oil pan is really low, so I need to shorten it so it's not going to become shortened due to concrete. But yay. So outside in the driveway, pressure wash the mother-loving snot out of it. It's plastic. It just surprises me, the plastic. Good intake for torque though, which is fine. And water pump. Getting it all nice and clean. I probably should paint that, don't you think? Oh, yeah. We're sped up pretty quick, though. There's the oil pan. I'm also going to port the oil pan passages in that once I have it all shortened and everything's ready to go for the final assembly. So right now it's gross, and I'll paint the pan gray as well. But we're cleaning all this up. Bunch of the zinc chromate. I don't remember if I painted it gray for you. Apparently I did. And then painting bolts, because, oh yeah. And man, the style of gaskets for these is just so cool. It fixes all of your oil leak issues. I put tape down on the intake just so that no junk fell in there, and then just lightly threaded the intake on. I'll be pulling it off once the engine's ready to go in for final, but I need to pull the engine in and out to make sure its placement is fine on the 61. And pull out the sandblasting cabinet because I figured why not do the harmonic balancer right. So blasted the whole thing and nice coat of the zinc, and I sprayed it with black it's like disc brake caliper enamel, which is really a durable paint. So that turned out pretty cool. Zipping down all the bolts on the pan. Then I tipped it over and all the oil came out, so I had to put an oil filter on it because I forgot to put an oil filter on it. And also the oil I primed the oil pump with was coming out one area. So I forgot to show how I made the harmonic balancer installation tool and didn't push play or record for any of this, including the manifolds. But they're on there temporarily till I hook up the turbo and the engine goes in. Here it is, done enough. Ta-da!